Don't talk to me till I've had my coffee is something many cringy people say daily. But even if you aren't cringe, many of us still need coffee every morning and throughout the day. Coffee is one of the most consumed beverages in the entire world, with nearly 2.5 billion cups consumed daily. The top 10 coffee-consuming countries in the world go through nearly 93.5 million bags of coffee beans yearly. The United States alone accounts for over 26 million bags of beans, with Brazil close behind with 22 million. If you organize it per capita, Finland comes out on top with the average Finn drinking 4 cups of coffee a day. I think it's safe to say that the world loves coffee. In fact, each year the world loves it more and more. In the United States, demand for coffee has increased nearly 40% in 2024, and it's increased nearly 5% globally. People love coffee, and each day they love it more and more, and that is going to be a big problem very shortly. You see, the title of this video is not clickbait. The world is running out of coffee, and it is estimated that in the next 30 years, 50% of the land currently used to produce coffee will no longer be viable for growing coffee. Why? Well, because whether you want to believe in it or not, climate change is impacting the world, and this includes our continued ability to produce coffee beans. There are roughly 124 different species of coffee grown globally, which sounds like it should work in our favor, but it's only 2 species that make up 99% of the coffee we drink. Arabica accounts for almost 70%, which makes up your normal everyday cup of joe. The other is Robusta, which makes up the other 29%, and that's what goes into your instant coffee. The thing about the Arabica variety is that it has a very delicate equilibrium, requiring temperatures between 17 and 20 degrees Celsius. Based on current climate projections, it is expected that global temperatures will have increased by 1.5 degrees Celsius by the year 2050, which will push nearly half of the land currently used for coffee cultivation out of the correct climate. So what about the 122 other species of coffee? Well, most of the other species are straight trash, with bad taste and low to no caffeine, which really doesn't help with the problem at hand. However, there is a crossbreed of Arabica and Robusta that makes it much more resilient to climate-related issues, which may sound promising, except to properly grow coffee, the plants need to cross-pollinate with wild coffee plants in order to develop natural resistances to bugs and diseases. So, while we may be able to create a plant better suited for the climate, that won't help the wild plants, and they will be affected by the increasing temperatures, meaning that when they die, we'll have lost an important cog in the coffee growing machine. The other thing to consider is that the majority of coffee growers are very poor, and they exist in a very delicate balance as it is. So a large portion of coffee farmers may not be able to afford to uproot their current operation to plant more climate-resistant coffee. Not to mention, if they lose 50% of their farmable land, they may not be able to afford to farm the other 50%. So while the climate is expected to wipe out a large portion of current coffee farmland, the changing climate will allow for coffee to grow in new areas. However, this is not really a silver lining. There will be many other ecological considerations to make, and even if it does open up new areas for farming, it will not be enough to meet the current rate of production, to say nothing of the yearly increasing demand. If you're hoping for things to stay the way they are now, you probably don't have a great chance of that happening, but your best hope is that scientists manage to cultivate a new breed of coffee that will adapt and thrive in the ever-evolving climate of the world. So what will this look like on a daily basis? Well, you can almost definitely expect coffee to skyrocket in price, and you may need to source a caffeine alternative. However, don't think that you'll be able to just start drinking tea, as climate change is also drastically affecting our ability to produce tea. As the climate continues to change, there are many things that we will have to adapt to and overcome, one of which might be a life without coffee. It's not lost on us that a large portion of people still do not believe that climate change is a real thing. If something is real, it will affect you regardless of your beliefs. And not to be condescending, but if you can't look around and see the world is changing rapidly, then you are either too stubborn to admit that you're wrong, even though you know you are, or you have your head buried so far in the sand that the only way you'll take note is when the rising sea levels fills the hole where your head was. So, if you want to keep drinking coffee, what can you do? It's a little cliche, but you need to make your voice heard. You need to vote for leaders who believe in aggressive climate policy designed to tackle climate change. You need to put pressure on the industries that are continuing to profit from the destruction of our home. If you want to learn more about how we're running out of coffee and the continued effects of climate change, then we suggest starting with the articles we used in the making of this video, all of which are linked in the description. And if you want to stay informed and learn more things in general, then we suggest subscribing so you don't miss out on our next tasty knowledge burger.